Gomu Gomu no Jet Pistol. Of course, as the seas got rougher, Luffy needed speed, not just power. That's where Gear Second came in, and with it, Jet Pistol. Think of it as the original pistol, but after drinking way too much coffee. By pumping his blood faster, Luffy makes his whole body move at insane velocity, then snaps his fist forward so fast it looks like it teleports. This was first revealed in Enies lobby against Blueno, and the shock factor was real. Blueno had been tanking all of Luffy's old attacks, but Jet Pistol punched right through his defense and dropped him instantly. Even Rob Lucci, one of the strongest CP9 agents, felt the sting of this strike. Jet Pistol marked the moment when Luffy officially leveled up, proving he could adapt and push his Devil Fruit beyond its basic limits. Gomu Gomu no Red Hawk. And then comes Red Hawk, probably one of the most emotional moves in his entire arsenal. On the surface, it's a fiery punch. Luffy uses Gear Second to accelerate, creates friction with the air, adds Haki, and suddenly his arm ignites in flames. The mechanics are insane, but the real weight behind this move is its symbolism. When Luffy used Red Hawk on Hody Jones in Fishman Island, fans immediately thought of Ace. It's Luffy carrying his brother's will forward, showing that Ace's flame still burns inside him. The move combines speed, Haki, and a raw heart. Every time Red Hawk lights up, it's like Luffy is fighting with Ace by his side. And honestly, that's what makes it so powerful. Gomu Gomu no Jet Gatling. If regular Gatling is already chaos, Jet Gatling is pure madness. Luffy takes Gear Second, pumps his blood for insane speed, and then lets his fists fly faster than the eye can follow. The most iconic use of Jet Gatling came at the climax of Enies lobby. Luffy versus Rob Lucci, the fight that pushed both men to their absolute limit. Lucci had been dodging and blocking Luffy's attacks all fight, but when Jet Gatling came out, there was nowhere to run. Hundreds of fists rained down on him, crushing him into defeat. That was the declaration that Luffy would save Robin no matter what. The sound of those punches, like drums of liberation foreshadowing what we'd see much later in Wano. Gomu Gomu no Elephant Gun. After the time skip, Luffy took things in the opposite direction. If Jet Gatling was about speed, Elephant Gun was all about power. He blows air into his bones, making his arm huge, then coats it with armament Haki until it's hard as iron. When that massive fist drops, it feels like the hand of a giant slamming down from the sky. He used it against Hody Jones in Fishman Island, and the result was devastating. Elephant Gun wrecked entire ships in the process. The sheer weight behind it proved how much stronger Luffy had become during his 2 years of training. It showed us that Gear Third plus Haki was a whole new level of destructive force. If you thought his early punches were dangerous, Elephant Gun made them look like tickles. Gomu Gomu no Grizzly Magnum. And if one giant punch isn't enough, Luffy has two. Grizzly Magnum is basically Elephant Gun times 2, with both hands enlarged and smashing forward like a giant double bazooka. It's Luffy saying, "Why stop at one fist when I can throw both?" In Punk Hazard, this move was used to blast Caesar Clown through his own lab, breaking the entire structure apart. The impact was terrifying, and the name fits perfectly. A grizzly bear doesn't swipe gently, it crushes with both paws. That's the vibe here. This move is pure destruction, meant to clear everything in front of Luffy. The enemy, the battlefield, the walls. Nothing survives when Grizzly Magnum connects. Gomu Gomu no Elephant Gatling. Finally, we get to Elephant Gatling, the evolution of everything before it. Imagine Jet Gatling's speed, but instead of regular fists, they're gigantic Haki-coated hammers. He pumps up both arms, makes them massive, and then unleashes a furious storm of giant punches. Each strike is heavy enough to flatten a ship, but he throws them in rapid succession like a machine gun. We saw this insane move in Fishman Island when Luffy needed to stop the giant Noah ship. Alone, he unleashed Elephant Gatling to pound away at it again and again, smashing sections of the massive arc to pieces. It was proof that Luffy could shoulder the weight of thousands of lives. The move carries weight not only in damage, but in meaning. He's protecting entire nations. Gomu Gomu no Kong Gun. When Luffy first unveiled Gear 4th, the world of One Piece shifted. Bound Man was strange. His body ballooned, his movements looked cartoonish. But then he threw the Kong Gun. That punch was pure destruction. Luffy compresses his arm like a spring, coils it in, and then launches it forward coated in armament Haki. We saw the result immediately in Dressrosa when Doflamingo, a Shichibukai, who had been casually dodging everything before, got slammed through entire buildings. Kong Gun wasn't a normal attack, it was a shockwave to the series. Suddenly, Luffy had reached the level where he could reshape the battlefield itself. Gomu Gomu no Culverin. But Gear 4th isn't only about raw power. It's about flexibility too, and Culverin is proof. Instead of firing a straight punch, Luffy stretches his arm out and lets it bend and snake around until it homes in on the enemy. It's like a heat-seeking missile made of rubber and Haki. Against Doflamingo, this move was essential. The heavenly demon could fly around on his strings, constantly dodging and weaving. But Culverin tracked him, turning midair, following him like a predator, refusing to let its prey escape. It showed us that Luffy could adapt, predict, and corner opponents who relied on speed. It's a punch with personality, stubborn, relentless, and kind of funny to watch as it zigzags across the battlefield. Gomu Gomu no Leo Bazooka. Now, if Kong Gun is a bomb and Culverin is a missile, Leo Bazooka is the nuke. This was Luffy's finishing move against Doflamingo, and the scene is still legendary. He inflates both arms, pulls them back, compresses like springs, and then slams forward with every ounce of force and Haki he has. The result was seismic. Doflamingo's godlike control of Dressrosa crumbled the moment that attack landed. The shockwave flattened buildings, tore apart the battlefield, and ended the fight once and for all. This was Luffy's message to the world. Gear 4th meant business. Leo Bazooka is about finality. When Luffy pulls this move out, you know the fight is about to end. Gomu Gomu no Rhino Schneider. And of course, Bound Man isn't only hands. Rhino Schneider proves that Luffy fights with his whole body. He enlarges both legs, coats them in Haki, and then launches a devastating double kick. The visual itself is hilarious, giant inflated legs smashing down, but the damage is no joke. Against Doflamingo, this move added variety to Luffy's offense. While most of Gear 4th was about punches, Rhino Schneider balanced it out. It showed that Bound Man wasn't one-dimensional. He could attack from multiple angles, switching between fists and kicks without losing momentum. Plus, there's something about the image of a rubber man drop-kicking a warlord with legs the size of tree trunks that makes you laugh and wince at the same time. Gomu Gomu no Kong Organ. If Kong Gun was one giant punch, then Kong Organ is Luffy saying, "What if I throw 20 of them at once?" In Bound Man, he inflates his fists and unleashes a rapid-fire barrage that looks like Gatling on steroids. Each strike is compressed, coated in Haki, and detonates like a cannon blast. We saw this against Doflamingo, and the visuals alone told us everything. Fists raining down like meteors, the battlefield shaking, enemies unable to even breathe. It's pure domination. Kong Organ is about overwhelming your opponent until they can't fight back. And the best part? It's as ridiculous as it is terrifying. Watching Luffy with inflated arms machine gun punching a warlord feels like something straight out of a Looney Tunes fever dream, but with the power to level a city. Gomu Gomu no Black Mamba. Now let's slide into Snake Man, Luffy's fastest form. Black Mamba is the move that defines it. Instead of relying on sheer size, Luffy makes his arms whip around like serpents, striking over and over from unpredictable angles. The fists curve mid-flight, coated in Haki, and keep chasing the target no matter where they dodge. This technique was perfect against Katakuri in Whole Cake Island. Katakuri could see the future, predict Luffy's moves, and counter every straightforward attack. But Black Mamba kept twisting and turning, slipping through those predictions. The speed was insane, the rhythm relentless. It's like fighting a swarm of snakes. No matter how many you dodge, another one is already coiling in to strike. And honestly, Watching Katakuri's face as the punches kept coming was priceless. Gomu Gomu no King Cobra. If Black Mamba is the setup, King Cobra is the finisher. It's the ultimate Snake Man punch. Luffy stretches his arm far back, lets it whip around like a giant serpent, and then sends it crashing forward at blinding speed. The trajectory curves, bends, and then slams into the target with everything he has. This was the move that ended the battle with Katakuri. After hours of back and forth, with both fighters on the brink of collapse, King Cobra broke through. Luffy showed he could adapt, evolve, and push past someone who had been untouchable. King Cobra is a declaration that Luffy's creativity and willpower can overcome even the sharpest foresight. Gomu Gomu no Pistol. The very first move we all remember from Luffy's arsenal is the pistol. It's not flashy, it's not overcomplicated, it's simply a stretched out punch. But this one punch shaped the way we see Luffy as a fighter. Imagine the first time he pulled it off. His arm shoots forward like a slingshot, smacking enemies before they even realize what's happening. That's Luffy's style right there. Direct, unpredictable, and always fun to watch. Mechanically, it's simple. He pulls his arm back, stretches it as far as his rubber body allows, and then lets it snap forward. The result? A ranged punch that still hits with the weight of a close combat strike. In the early arcs, this move alone was enough to crush pirates like Buggy or knock Alvida off her feet. Sure, it looks silly when he stretches like a cartoon character, but when that fist lands, walls crack and enemies fly. Gomu Gomu no Bazooka. Now, if the pistol is Luffy's sharp jab, then the bazooka is his heavy push. Instead of one fist, he uses both hands, pulling them all the way back before slamming forward. And the best part? He doesn't even punch, he just palms his target like he's shoving a door open. Except the door here is usually a poor villain flying across the battlefield. This move shows up beautifully against Captain Kuro back in East Blue. The impact is wild, it's like watching a human slingshot. The way Luffy uses his elasticity, the snapback force, and his raw timing, he turns a simple push into an explosive blast. Enemies are launched meters away, sometimes crashing through structures. That's internal damage on top of external force. You can almost hear the crunch when it connects. Gomu Gomu no Rifle. Then we get to the rifle, the evolution of the pistol. Think of it like this. Luffy looked at his regular punch and thought, what if I spin it? That's right. He twists his arm while stretching it, turning the punch into a drill. This attack was highlighted during the Alabasta arc when Luffy faced Crocodile. A straight punch wasn't enough to hurt a man who could dissolve into sand. But the rifle gave Luffy something sharper, something that could break through solid resistance. The rotational force increases the impact drastically. You can almost feel the pressure of that fist boring into whatever it hits. It's more destructive than the pistol, able to smash through stone walls or pierce tougher opponents. It's also proof that Luffy's mind is always turning. Gomu Gomu no Gatling. And then comes one of my personal favorites, the Gatling. If the pistol is a jab and the rifle is a drill, then the Gatling is an all-out machine gun barrage. Instead of stretching one punch at a time, Luffy unleashes a rapid-fire storm of fists. His arms blur into a whirlwind, and all you see is a rain of knuckles smashing into the target. It's the ultimate overwhelm your opponent move. Hundreds of punches in seconds, each carrying the snap of his rubber elasticity. He first used it to dominate weaker foes, but the most iconic moment was against Lucci during Enies Lobby. The sound of fist after fist slamming down, the animation of his arms whipping forward, the desperation in that fight. It all made the Gatling unforgettable. Did it fully beat Lucci? Not right away, but it gave Luffy the momentum to keep pressing forward when the battle looked impossible. This move is raw chaos. It's Luffy saying, if one punch won't do it, then I'll throw 100 more. Simple logic, crazy execution. It shows his determination and his refusal to ever back down, no matter who's standing in front of him. Gomu Gomu no Balloon. There are moments when Luffy doesn't punch at all. He turns himself into, well, a balloon. This move is hilarious to watch, but it's also one of his smartest defensive tricks. He inhales a huge amount of air and stores it in his rubber body until he blows up like a giant ball. The enemy fires a cannonball, and instead of Luffy being torn apart, he bounces it back like he's playing dodgeball with a warship. This skill shows us another side of his devil fruit. Rubber doesn't only stretch, it can absorb shock. That's why Balloon works so well against blunt force or explosions. In early arcs, we saw him using it to tank cannon fire that would have killed anyone else. It's ridiculous, but it saved his life many times, and honestly, it fits Luffy perfectly. Other pirates build armor, Luffy builds an inflatable version of himself, Gomu Gomu no bullet. Now, on the other hand, sometimes he doesn't need defense, he needs speed. That's where Bullet comes in. Instead of charging up a long, stretchy attack like the pistol, he shoots out a quick, precise punch. It's sharp, it's fast, and it hits before the enemy even reacts. You can see this during the Syrup Village arc. Luffy didn't have time to waste on fancy combos, so he relied on Bullet to knock down weaker enemies in one blow. It's efficient, direct, and shows his sense of timing. Think of it like a quick jab in boxing, small but deadly when aimed at the right spot. It might not look as dramatic as his bigger attacks, but that sudden snap of force is exactly what ends fights fast. Gomu Gomu no rocket. Of course, not every move is about punching. Sometimes Luffy uses his rubber body for movement. The rocket is a classic. He grabs onto something solid, stretches himself back like a slingshot, and then lets go, launching himself through the air like a human missile. This ability is funny and terrifying at the same time. Funny because it looks like he's flinging himself around with zero planning. Terrifying because if you're the unlucky person standing where he lands, you're basically hit by a cannonball made of rubber and determination. During the Barity arc, this move helped him close the distance against Don Krieg, who was hiding behind his massive shield of weapons. Instead of walking up slowly, Luffy just turned himself into a rocket and slammed in. Problem solved. Gomu Gomu no axe. And then we get to one of Luffy's most destructive techniques in the early days, the axe. He stretches his leg way up high, then brings it down like a giant hammer. The elasticity of his rubber body combines with gravity, creating an attack that feels less like a kick and more like a meteor strike. We saw this beautifully in Arlong Park. Luffy raised his leg, stretched it to the max, and then slammed it straight into Arlong's base. The entire structure cracked under the impact. This was about destroying their power, their home, their pride. Axe shows us how Luffy fights not only with fists, but with the environment itself. It's part raw power, part statement. I'm here to tear down everything you built. And that's exactly what he did. Gomu Gomu no Storm. Now, let's talk about Chaos. Storm is Luffy at his most furious. Imagine Gatling, but cranked to the maximum and aimed from above. He launches himself into the air, flips upside down, and spins his whole body while firing a barrage of punches downward. The result? A literal storm of fists crashing on everything below. This move became legendary during the Alabasta arc. Facing Crocodile, a warlord who had already pushed him to the brink, Luffy unleashed Storm as his final gambit. The sheer force of it tore through buildings, smashed Crocodile into the ground, and ended the battle. Storm represents Luffy's willpower at full blast, throwing everything he has into one overwhelming attack. Gomu Gomu no Cannonball. And then we have Tankman, the strangest of all Gear 4th forms. Instead of focusing on speed or elasticity, Luffy goes full defense mode. He inflates his body until he's a living fortress, then uses his rubber bulk to bounce attacks back. Cannonball is his signature in this form. He takes in an enemy's strike, compresses the force, and then launches it back with explosive recoil. We only saw this in action against Cracker, but wow, what a scene. Cracker's biscuit soldiers had been overwhelming, but when Luffy switched into Tankman, he literally ate the attack, absorbed the momentum, and then blasted Cracker away like a human cannon shot. It was funny, bizarre, and ridiculously effective all at once. That's Tankman in a nutshell. Silly visuals, devastating results. Gomu Gomu no Bajrang Gun. This is it, the biggest punch Luffy has ever thrown. In Gear 5th, he swells his fist until it's the size of an island, coats it with both armament and Conqueror's Haki, and then slams it down from above. The name Bajrang comes from the Hindu monkey god Hanuman, and fittingly, this punch looks divine. During the climax of Wano, this was the move that finally defeated Kaido. The sheer scale is absurd. The fist covers the sky, casting a shadow over Onigashima. It knocked Kaido down immediately, symbolizing the fall of an emperor. Bajrang Gun is the ultimate expression of Luffy's power. Boundless, overwhelming, and fueled by his will to free Wano. It's a punch that shook the entire world and cemented him as one of the strongest living pirates. Gomu Gomu no Dawn Whip. Not every move in Gear 5th is about massive destruction. Some are about speed and creativity. Dawn Whip is one of those. Luffy stretches out his leg, twists it like a whip, and lashes out with a strike that bends and snaps at blinding speed. It looks playful, almost silly, but the force behind it is terrifying. We saw it in Egghead, when Luffy used it against Rob Lucci. One moment, his leg looked like a noodle. The next, it was crashing into Lucci with enough power to send shockwaves. This move shows the freedom of Gear 5th. It's a cartoon weapon that bends reality itself. And honestly, seeing Luffy whip around like an animated gag while fighting one of the deadliest assassins in the world, that's peak One Piece comedy. Gomu Gomu no Gigant. If Gear 3rd made Luffy's limbs giant, Gigant takes that idea and dials it up to god tier. In Gear 5th, he can inflate his entire body to colossal size, towering over his enemies like a giant from Legends. Every movement becomes devastating. Every step shakes the battlefield. Against Kaido, Gigant was insane. He literally grew into a giant warrior, embodying the mythical figure of Nika. When Luffy turned gigantic, it looked less like a pirate fight and more like a god descending into battle. Gigant proves that Gear 5th isn't only about combat, it's about spectacle. Oda wanted us to feel awe, and that's exactly what this move delivers. Gomu Gomu no Lightning. And then there's one of the most creative abilities we've ever seen, lightning. In Gear 5th, Luffy uses his own body, bends the world around him. He literally grabs a bolt of lightning, treats it like a toy, and hurls it at his enemy. Yes, he weaponizes the weather itself by making it rubber. He pulled this off during his battle with Kaido, and the sight was unreal. A pirate grabbing lightning with his bare hands and throwing it like a spear? That's beyond logic. But that's the whole point of Gear 5th. It's freedom. It's imagination. It's Oda saying, why not? Lightning captures the playful yet terrifying nature of Luffy's awakening. He can turn the battlefield into his playground, and Kaido, the strongest creature in the world, was stuck inside the game. Gomu Gomu no Dawn Rocket. If there's one move that sums up Gear 5th's playful madness, it's Dawn Rocket. Luffy stretches his body back like a slingshot, compresses himself until he looks like rubber spaghetti, and then launches forward at insane speed. It's part missile, part cartoon gag, and completely Luffy. In Egghead, this attack was a highlight against Lucci. 1 second Luffy was coiled up. The next, he was blasting across the battlefield like a rocket, smacking into his target with enough force to rattle the whole area. The beauty of Dawn Rocket is about the style. It feels straight out of an old-school cartoon, but with the destructive power of a Yonko. That's Gear 5th in a nutshell. Silly visuals, terrifying results. This is one of the most basic, but super important abilities in the world of Haki. Sensing presence. It lets the user feel the aura of living things. Not like seeing with your eyes. This is more like sensing their spirit, no matter how far away they are, or how well they're hiding. It's kind of like hearing the voice of life, something only people with Haki can truly pick up. Remember when Usopp sniped Sugar from super far away? He wasn't even looking at her directly. She was behind walls and obstacles, but Usopp still nailed the shot. Why? Because he felt her presence. Or take Admiral Fujitora. He's completely blind. But thanks to his observation Haki, he can still fight like a total monster, reading the battlefield, knowing where everyone is, just by sensing their aura. It basically replaces his eyesight. But it's not perfect. In one scene, when a character is swallowed by a huge creature, they can only feel the aura inside, not what's going on outside. So, yeah, certain environments can mess with it. And if you're new to Haki, your sensing range is small and not very accurate. Still, this is the first step in mastering observation Haki. It's what every serious fighter trains first, because in real battles, knowing where your enemy is can mean the difference between winning and getting wrecked. Haki of Armament. Next comes Armament Haki, the invisible armor that Luffy coats his attacks with. At its base level, it hardens his body, letting him strike with extra force and defend against attacks. But after the time skip, he learned advanced forms like Ryu, which lets him push Haki through objects and even destroy them from within. This Haki became essential when fighting enemies like Kaido. Without it, none of Luffy's rubber-based punches would have hurt the dragon at all. But with armament layered onto Elephant Gun or Kong Gun, his attacks broke through scales that were supposed to be indestructible. Armament Haki made every gear technique deadlier, turning silly rubber into iron fists of justice. Haki of Conquerors. Finally, the most iconic of all, Conqueror's Haki. This ability is about knocking out weaker enemies, the willpower made manifest. When Luffy unleashes it, entire crowds collapse, unable to withstand his spirit. But the true breakthrough was when he learned to coat his attacks with Conquerors. During the rooftop battle in Wano, Luffy clashed with Kaido using this advanced form. The result? Punches that didn't even make contact, yet shook the skies. This is the ability reserved only for the very strongest. With it, Luffy stepped fully into the realm of kings. Every time he throws a punch charged with Conqueror's Haki, it's his unbreakable will smashing into his enemy.
Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.